think the massive changes in workforce are the big shift to a more freelance work style and a more mobile and a more agile work style. And that means big organisations really have to examine how they attract and retain people. When you can work anywhere on your own terms, why on earth would you come to a big office and sit in there all day? What's inspiring about that? How does that make you feel, and so forth? So organisations have really got to shift from their buildings just being containers for people as a real opportunity to attract, retain and inspire people, really.
I think the nature of business is also changing in the sense that we've got very large businesses that are kind of moving around and they're decentralising and then re-centralising, you know, as the years go by. But we've also got this rise, as Natalie says, of the freelancer or the entrepreneur. And big businesses have to work with those small businesses if they want some of the good stuff, because the large ones are they're not always as agile as they want to be. But if they can get some of the good stuff from the smaller organisations, the startups, then those two can sometimes work really well hand in hand with the strong brands and the agility of the startups to create some really good things. So I think organisations want the best of both worlds. Well, I think they need to really understand what their workforce is and who their people are and how they already work. Because there's this challenge with workplace, which is we always want to create a workplace that supports the way that people already do work, because current workplaces or traditional workplaces are not really supporting that. But then we also need to create a situation where they can take that even further. So while we say, yes, we're going to support you better by giving you this new workplace, we also need to help them work through that change process so that when they get there, they're not working in their old ways and their old mindsets. So I think that shift, that mindset shift is the challenge that we're all facing right now, and that's why we need to look at not just what is the next phase of ABW, it's what's the next phase of workplace. ABW is just one component of what that is.
I would absolutely support that, and I think if you were going to give advice to an organisation who's come to the end of their lease, or they've got a big project in the offing for some reason or another, I would say don't make any assumptions day one about what that will be like. I'd step back if you get a chance, if you have the time, even if it's the shortest time. Step back and say, what is the question that we need our workplace to help us answer? We are seeing some shift towards, as Alice was alluding to before, a blurred line between the inside and the outside, and there's great case studies in Sydney and in Melbourne now where more space has been given over to the public and new types of working, like co-working or innovation hubs, more studio-like space. So a real blended sort of space between workspace and cafes and clubs, if you like. And we've taken a chance to have a really great opportunity here in Sydney called The Porter, and it's a building that Lease owns and looks after, and we, in a refresh of the lobby, we took the opportunity with the investment management team here to write a new kind of brief. And it's a brief of a small working club in the bottom of a building, and it's genuinely a really blurred line between public and private space. It's a membership space. So I think, although the finance institutions have really pushed where ABW is, we see a new wave of workspace coming, a more club-like space.
I think where you need to start is, as Natalie said before, you need to just step back and understand your business, understand the people who work within that business, and you need to understand where the business is going in the future. So I think a really big pitfall is just not giving the time to that and assuming that you know what the outcome is already going to be, and then trying to fit that into the story of the workplace. As for piloting and that kind of thing, I think it's a really important step, not just for understanding what the workplace will look like, but for how people are going to use the workplace and how the change kind of plays out over a long period of time, because it is quite a long period of time from when you start thinking about your new workplace to when you move in. And you see the organisations go through such a big change over that period. And in reality, when the project team feels that the project is over because everyone's moving in, that's actually when everything starts for the rest of the organisation. So I think that making sure that you really look to create a robust embedding strategy, bringing in new roles into the organisation, so recognising that we're not running old-style workplaces just with pretty finishes and people not necessarily having assigned desks. It's so much more than that. The whole ecosystem of the workplace needs to adapt and respond to that in a more sophisticated way.
It is a really exciting space, and I think the rise of mobile technology is just not slowing down, of course, and our needs as workers align to that. If we expect to have free video conferencing through FaceTime on your phone, why can't I do that in the office? I think as consumers we are now pushing the workplace faster than ever. But one of the dangers, I suppose, with ABW is that it starts to become commoditized. It starts to become a new version of open plan, that it's just some straight desks and some bendy desks, and I can't really see the behavioural shift from A to B. So I think the space that excites me, and I am seeing it happening, is the organisations and the design teams with them who are taking it to a very highly designed place, if you like, rather than just rolling out different shaped desks for different tasks with low amounts of justification for that, really saying, well, how can we extremely design quiet spaces or collaborative spaces? How can we create genuine ambient shift from A to B? Rather, as a consumer, you could quickly smell a rat that desk A and B aren't really going to give you much sensory difference. Whereas the organisations who are really taking it that way, that's the place that's really exciting for me.